something tragic has happened. I ran out of beef tallow. I know you're saying, well, it says coconut on there. That's just an old coconut jar from my keto days that I thoroughly cleaned and repurposed, actually before I was carnivore, and for the use of beef tallow. And it's a great jar to use for it. But unfortunately, I ran out of my normal run-of-the-mill cooking beef tallow, which I made probably last fall. So instead of going out and spending a ridiculous amount of money, we're talking $15, $20 for just regular tallow, I thought I'd show you how to make tallow. So let's do this today. So here you see my wife is filming from above. This is from Destiny Ranch, the rancher that I bought my half cow from, if you saw that video. And there are 4 or 5 of these chunks. It turns into about 5 pounds of fat. This is the fat from around the organs, the good stuff. This is the fat you want to cook with if you're going to make your own tallow. This came frozen, but I spent the evening thawing in the refrigerator. And for this, you need, of course, a good cutting board, my trusty white cutting board that you've seen in several of my cooking videos now. And you need a sharp knife. This is a knife I reserve for cutting roasts and other kind of denser things like fat. This fat is very dense, which is a good sign. You want the intramuscular, fat or the fat around the organs. Other good fat, if you can't get this, is going to be found on briskets. The brisket trimmings are good for this. Now, you can go buy this from a butcher. This is part of the half cow I got, so the price per pound isn't really relevant here, but I saw somebody on Facebook posting a picture from either Safeway or a store like that, where their butcher sold them fat cubes or fat chunks like this for 49 cents a pound. Now we're talking, compared to the $10, $15, $20 you might pay for tallow, 49 cents a pound. So if you use 5 pounds like I have here, it'd be $2.50 plus some time. I'm going to show you 2 methods here on how to turn one of the cheapest ingredients that you can get, it's also super nutritious, into your own cooking tallow, or tallow that you can then add to leaner cuts of meat or really lean ground beef, if that's what you see a good deal on, to make it more carnivore appropriate, since we tend to like high amounts of fat with this way of life, right? Excuse the cat walking by. But there you go. I'm not going to show you cutting up every single thing. Instead, we put the camera down, my wife assisted me, and now you see 2 of those metal aluminum trays for this. Now, some people don't like use of aluminum. I understand that, but for this purpose, I didn't object because both of these are going to be cooked on a very low temperature setting. The problem with aluminum is that when you get it above like 300 degrees, it gets to be something you don't want. I'm not cooking this anywhere near 300, but then you also notice on the table is a crock pot, and more than half of this tallow is actually going to be out of that aluminum anyway. It's just a temporary storage container, and it's going to be used in the crock pot. And as you see here, just a standard size. If you have ever made a stew or a chili or a big pot roast in a crock pot, it's a standard size. So we just dump it all right into the crock pot as so. Make sure you get the little last bits off, and then we put the lid back on, we plug it in, and we are putting this on the lowest setting. This is the 10-hour cook time. So this is going to cook for 10 hours. And then we step outside, and I load into the smoker char hickory, one of my favorite things to smoke with. It's the Lumberjack brand pellets that sort of mimic charcoal. And I'm using this on my the portable Rectech 340. The RT 340 was my first pellet smoker. It's a trusty thing. I've used it a lot. It's actually designed for tailgating. You can take this thing and go places with it. And I'm going to put this on the lowest temperature setting. This is unfortunately, this camera isn't that great. But the lowest temperature setting is the extreme smoke setting, which is 180 degrees. I'm not worried about aluminum at 180. Meanwhile, this is several hours into the cook. I filmed this, I went to bed, got up at like 1 a.m. and checked on the tallow, and that's after several hours with the crock pot. And you can see it bubbling away. It looks absolutely wonderful. And what looks like pineapple are the actual bits of fat that have been rendering down. Some people eat that stuff, by the way, after it's done. Not really my thing, but if you do that, let me know in the comments, please. Fortunately, because it's 3 in the morning out here, you can't really see much. I don't have a good light in my carport. This is by the light of my car, actually. So here I am trying to check in on the thing. The footage, unfortunately, isn't that great. But there it is, camera light, and notice the color difference. Here you see the gold and brown. You can see the smoke has really done its work. Yes, we are making smoked tallow. That's what I'm actually aiming for here. And I've made this before. It's wonderful, but it didn't render enough for my taste, so then I cranked the temperature from 180 to 225, the standard smoking temperature. And once again, I am not worried about aluminum at 225. I, however, do not cook with aluminum anything above this temperature as a personal rule. If I had a better container for this, I would definitely use it in the future. If you have an idea for something to replace the aluminum pan with that I'm using, let me know in the comments. I'm not sure I want to put Pyrex in a smoker. But if you think it'll be safe, let me know. And here we are, about 6:30 in the morning. It's been 10 hours, and we are pulling the final product, at least not the final product, but the final bit of, after its final smoke, out of the smoker. And here we have golden, almost red chunks of fat with golden, almost red tallow. That is pure liquid gold. If there's a food manufacturer here who wants to get in with me on making smoked tallow for sale, let me know. But there's a bit of work here that has to be done at this point. And this is where we start taking, I'm not going to have you watch, pull every chunk of fat out, but you do have to take every chunk of fat out. And here we are dealing with the smoked fat first. And you see the golden color on this. Imagine if you gave that to a dog, they would love it. Imagine if you wanted to eat that yourself. If you were into eating chunks of fat, you'd probably love it too. It's not really my thing, but we take almost all of it out, and here's where you see a lot of little floaties in there. So we take the jar, and now here's where my wife reminded me, hey, you've got that filter thing, use it. And you very carefully pour it here. By the way, this is where I recommend you wear do what I did not do, which is wear an apron, because that stuff splattered and it ended up ruining a shirt I was wearing. But there you go. Not going to have you watch the whole thing, but very dark looking here. And so now we're moving on from that to the crockpot tallow. Now you can put these in two separate jars if you want regular tallow or smoked tallow, and smoked tallow separately. I'm actually going to put them in the same jar. But check this out. Look how big of a pile we're talking of here for the cut up things. And it gives you an idea how much it rendered down too, because you could fit all that easily into one of those metal trays. Now instead of pouring and dumping, that's not going to be a good idea with a crock pot. I am just using a ladle, good old-fashioned metal ladle. And again, I should have been wearing an apron. During this, my wife was lecturing me, by the way, about how, we make sure to put it over the middle and dump it down. She's made things before with a crock pot that rendered down. Take a look at this. This is not quite the final product yet. We're getting a close-up here. It's very dark looking here. This is, again, once you got the regular tallow mixed with the smoke, it just emulsified. But this is what it looked like just 4 hours later. We went and ran errands after this was done for a future video, actually. And at room temperature, it solidified and it looked just like regular tallow. But I guarantee you, it's very smoky. In fact, when I opened the jar to show you this, you got that smoky tallow, fresh tallow scent from it. Now, pro tip, when you're making tallow like this, do not, I repeat, do not do the crock pot in the house unless the weather forces you to. Like last night when I was doing this, we had storms rolling in. So if you're in the crock pot, it will make your whole house smell like tallow, which is fine if that's what you like, but most people don't. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. Have an optimal day.